Abraham Zapruder, a Dallas clothing manufacturer who watched the motorcade from atop a grassy slope to the west of the book depository, turned on his 8mm Bell & Howell movie camera. Focusing his telephoto lens on the president, Zapruder captured the most shocking and sensational piece of film in history.
Motorcade in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963. As the presidential car passes behind the freeway sign, President Kennedy is struck in the throat by a bullet that was fired from the grassy knoll. As he's grasping his throat to John Connally, turning around to his right, he at that point is struck. You notice the passenger of the car turning back to see what has happened to the president. As he turns back to the front, the driver of the car turns with his left arm over his right shoulder with a pistol and fires. You see the 45 caliber nickel-plated automatic weapon in his left hand. He's firing over his right shoulder. You see it in relief. You see his head pointing backwards towards the president. In this enhanced close-up, you see the impact of the bullet upon the president. The force of the shot drives him violently backward against the back of the seat. You see Mrs. Kennedy react in horror. The ugly gaping wound, which is evident here, according to many observers at the scene, was actually created on the print. This was not the actual nature of the wound. But you notice that Mrs. Kennedy wasted no time in trying to exit the vehicle because she clearly was able to determine exactly where that shot had originated. And it was her personal bodyguard, Clint Hill, another Secret Service agent, who attempted to keep her in. What the arrow is indicating here is what appears to be the outline of a man, a hat, and his rifle. The arrow is pointing to the rifle barrel of the man in the bushes who possibly was the rifleman on the grassy knoll who fired that shot. Another view taken by another photographer. Again, you see Mrs. Kennedy trying to exit the vehicle at all times. Here you see the passenger in the front turning back, looking at the president. Instead of jumping back to assist him, he turns forward. The driver is now rotating. The weapon comes into view and he fires. You'll see this repeatedly in these sequences. Kennedy's been shot in the throat. He's leaning to his left. The driver now begins to rotate. His left arm comes over his right shoulder and he fires now. Again, you see the driver rotate, you see the weapon come into view. He's rotating again, the weapon is in view, he fires. You can clearly see his head turning and his arm and the weapon extending into view over his right shoulder. Many of the witnesses indicated that the car slowed almost to a virtual halt at about this point. And here in the normal version, you see how much more quickly it is speeded up. It's much harder to determine. Many of the people who asked the question why Jackie Kennedy did not.
This is the same film that we sent to Japan to have a computer analyzed. The Japanese concurred. They said that I was absolutely right in the outline what they found from the computer analysis. They also gave us a very clear, beautiful color cut that you will see following it.
Here, according to many observers,
目の前で真犯人を目撃してしまったジャクリーン夫人は自分の身の危険を悟って車から逃がそうとした。だがすぐ後ろからつけてきたシークレットサービスによって押し戻され、電気に逃げるチャンスを失ってしまったのだ。このシーンの中に一発目の弾丸を発射した真犯人が映っている。登山棒 かぶりライフルを構えているのがわかる。
And his rifle, the arrow.
おそらくこの狙撃手が最初にケネディの喉を撃ち抜いたのだ。
On the Graphenol who fired that shot. Another.
別のフィルムでもシークレットサービスが慌ててジャクリーン夫人を阻止しようと飛び乗るのが映っている。ここで決定的な瞬間をより鮮明なフィルムで見て画面右端の運転手が振り向き片押しにピストルで撃つのが見える。画面の右端に見える運転手の動作に注意すると分かる。ハンドルを握った右腕越しに左手でピストルを突き出している。もう一度見てみよう。間もなく運転手の頭が後ろを振り向くと同時に肩のところに白く光るピストルが出てくるのが見える。今後ろを振り向く。同じシーンを何度か繰り返しているとよくわかる。 これまでにも報告されているが、今までにジョン・ディア氏以外は誰一人運転
Doctors worked desperately to save the president's life and to care for Governor Conley, who was also seriously injured in the shooting. Although the governor would make a full recovery, it was obvious to the doctors that Kennedy's wounds were fatal. And at approximately 1 p.m., the president was pronounced dead.
Forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike, that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century, tempered by war, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage, and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed and to which we are committed today at home and around the world.
What began with such promise, however, would end less than 3 years later in tragedy. On November 22nd, 1963, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated, shot to death while riding in an open limousine through the city streets of Dallas, Texas. The death of such a young and vigorous leader was an overwhelming event which stunned both the nation and the world. In the years that followed, though, the Kennedy assassination became much more than a national tragedy. When viewed in light of later assassinations, the war in Vietnam,
画面の右端に見える運転手の動作に注意するとわかる。ハンドルを握った右腕越しに左手でピストルを突き出している。もう一度見てみよう。間もなく運転手の頭が後ろを振り向くと同時に肩のところに白く光るピストルが出てくるのが見える。今後ろを振り向く。同じシーンを何度か繰り返してみるとよくわかる。この走りフィルムはこれまでに
Lights, please.
されているが、今までにジョン・ディア氏以外は誰一人運転手
While I I was with the Office of Naval Intelligence.